Have you ever noticed how tightly we cling to things, even when they bring us nothing but pain? A relationship that's already broken. A memory that keeps cutting us open. A mistake from years ago that whispers in the back of our mind every night before we sleep. And yet we don't let go. We keep holding on, almost as if suffering feels safer than freedom. So let me ask you this. Why do we cling so desperately when letting go is the very thing that could save us? This isn't just your struggle or mine. It's the universal struggle of the human heart. And yet, there are people who have mastered what seems almost impossible to us. Buddhist monks. They don't just talk about letting go, they embody it. They practice it every single day, with every thought, with every breath, until letting go is no longer a challenge. It becomes their way of being. And that's exactly what we're going to explore in this video. How Buddhist monks master the art of letting go not as some lofty, unreachable ideal, but as a living, breathing practice that you and I can also bring into our own lives. Now, before we go deeper, let me share something personal. I used to think letting go meant losing control, losing the people I love, losing my place in this world. And maybe you've felt that too, because in the culture we live in, we are taught to hold on to possessions, to success, to relationships, to identities. Letting go feels like failure. But monks show us something radically different. Letting go is not about losing. It's about finding freedom. Think about this. When you unclench your fist, you don't lose the hand. You gain the ability to hold something new. That's the paradox. And it's the paradox that monks live by. Now, here's the beautiful part. In this video, I'm not just going to tell you Buddhist philosophy in abstract words. We're going to walk step by step into the actual methods monks use to train their minds and hearts. You'll see how they slowly untangle themselves from anger, fear, desire, and attachment. And you'll discover how these same practices can quietly, but powerfully, transform the way you deal with pain, loss, and change in your own life. Imagine this. What if you could look at a painful memory, and instead of being crushed by it, you could see it, accept it, and finally release it? What if you could walk through change, not with fear, but with a kind of deep trust that nothing real is ever truly lost? That's the gift of letting go. That's the gift monks have mastered. But let me be clear, this is not easy. Letting go is not a switch you flip. It's a discipline, a path, almost an art form. And monks dedicate their lives to it. The way they sit, the way they breathe, the way they walk, the way they respond to the smallest frustrations, it's all training in freedom. And here's what makes this journey so powerful. Once you begin to taste even a little bit of letting go, you realize how much energy you've been wasting carrying unnecessary weight. Suddenly, your mind feels lighter, your heart feels more open, and life begins to flow again. So if you've been holding on, whether to anger, grief, a dream that didn't work out, or simply the fear of change, this video is for you. Because together, we're going to uncover what monks have known for centuries. The secret is not in clinging tighter, it's in learning how to release. And at the very end of this video, I'll also share a special gift with you, a free resource that I've prepared as a way of saying thank you for walking this journey with me. It's something I believe will continue to support you even after this video ends. You'll find it linked right below in the description. But first, let me take you into the monastery walls. Imagine the sound of the morning bell echoing through the temple courtyard, monks rising in silence before dawn, their day beginning not with chaos, but with clarity. How do they train themselves heart and mind to meet life with such peace, while the rest of us feel trapped by our attachments? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear may just shift the way you carry your own life. 1. Misunderstanding about letting go. Have you ever been told, just let it go when you were going through something painful. Maybe it was after a breakup, or when you lost money, or when someone betrayed your trust. And didn't it feel almost insulting? Like, if I could let it go that easily, don't you think I would have already? That's the struggle most of us carry. We think letting go means giving up. We think it means being weak, cold, or uncaring. In our culture, holding on is celebrated. Holding on to dreams, to relationships, to possessions, even to grudges. Letting go, on the other hand, feels like defeat. But here's the paradox. Buddhist monks who dedicate their lives to inner peace see letting go not as weakness, but as strength. I remember visiting a monastery in Thailand years ago. There was an elderly monk. His robe faded from the sun, his face calm like still water. A visitor asked him, "Do you ever get angry? Do you ever feel hurt?" The monk smiled gently and said, "Of course, but I don't hold on to it. I let it pass, like clouds drifting across the sky." That response stunned me. Because in my own life, I was carrying years of resentment, old arguments, failures that kept replaying in my head. I realized what weighed me down wasn't the event itself, but my refusal to release it. And this is where so many of us misunderstand letting go. We think it's about pushing things away, suppressing emotions, or pretending we don't care. But monks teach that true letting go is not indifference. It's not about running away from reality. It's about facing reality so clearly that clinging becomes unnecessary. The Buddha once said, "You can only lose what you cling to." Think about that for a moment. It means the pain often doesn't come from what happened, but from the grip we refuse to loosen. Imagine you're holding a burning coal in your hand. The tighter you grip it, the more it hurts. Common sense says, drop it. Yet most of us carry burning coals every day, anger, regrets, expectations, believing that somehow holding on will serve us. But monks live differently. For them, letting go is the art of freedom. Let's make this practical. Think of someone who insulted you years ago. Maybe at work, maybe in your family. The words are long gone, but the wound is still alive in your chest. Every time you think about it, your stomach knots. That's not the insult hurting you anymore, that's the clinging. Or picture a failed dream, maybe a career path that collapsed, or a business that didn't work out. It ended years ago, yet you still carry the bitterness like a shadow. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring about your dreams. It means you stop letting the past choke the future. Monks remind us, the mind is like a room. If it's cluttered with old furniture, there's no space for new light to enter. Letting go is simply clearing space. Not throwing life away, but making room for life to flow. Now let's be honest. This isn't easy. Our culture rewards holding on. We say, don't quit, never forget, keep fighting. And yes, persistence has its place. But clinging is different. Clinging is when we attach our worth, our happiness, to something outside ourselves. A job, a person, an outcome. That's why monks train every day to release attachment. Not because they don't care, but because they want to care more freely, without fear. Letting go allows them to love without chains, to give without expecting, to live without being trapped by what should have been. When you really see it this way, letting go stops looking like weakness. It becomes the deepest strength, the strength to live unburdened. And maybe that's the question we need to sit with today. What coal are you still holding on to? What memory, what regret, what expectation still burns in your hand? Because the monks would say, true peace begins the moment you loosen your grip. 2. Contemplating impermanence. Let me share with you something that every Buddhist monk learns from the very beginning of their journey. It's a simple truth, but it carries the weight of the entire practice of letting go. That truth is impermanence. Now, Impermanence might sound like a heavy word, almost too philosophical, but really, it's something we see every single day of our lives. Think about it for a moment. The seasons shift. The body ages. Friendships evolve. A loved one we held yesterday may not be here tomorrow. And the emotions we once thought would drown us, anger, grief, or even joy, eventually soften, fade, and transform into something else. Buddhist monks don't study impermanence as a theory. They meditate on it, breathe it, and live it every single day. They walk into the monastery gardens and watch a flower bloom in the morning, only to see its petals fall by the evening. That simple observation becomes a lesson. Nothing stays the same. But here's where most of us get caught. We know life changes, yet we cling. We cling to youth when our body naturally grows older. We cling to success, hoping it will stay forever, forgetting that every achievement has its season. We even cling to pain, holding on to past wounds as if replaying them could change what happened. And this clinging, this desperate wish for permanence in a world that is constantly moving, is what creates our suffering. I remember hearing the words of the Buddha, "All conditioned things are impermanent." When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. It's not that suffering disappears on its own, but when we truly see the nature of impermanence, the grip of suffering loosens. Let's make it practical. Imagine someone loses their job. At first, the mind panics. This is the end. I've lost everything. The pain feels overwhelming. But when we step back and see with the lens of impermanence, we realize this job was one chapter, not the whole book. Life is moving, unfolding. Just as one door closed, another will open. When we let go of the idea that things must remain the same, we discover the strength to begin again. Or think about relationships. Maybe you've held on to someone who has long drifted away, an old friend, a partner, even a family member. The harder we cling to how things used to be, the more we suffer. But the monks teach, to love deeply is also to let go gracefully. Because love without clinging allows both people to grow, to change, to move with the current of life. This practice of contemplating impermanence isn't about becoming cold or detached. It's not about shrugging and saying, "Nothing matters, number." It's about learning to embrace the present moment fully, because we understand how fleeting it truly is. A monk doesn't look at a falling leaf and feel despair. He looks at it with tenderness, knowing that the beauty of life is found precisely because it changes. Have you ever noticed how the most precious memories in life are often tied to their impermanence? That sunset you watched with someone you love, that laugh with your child before they grew up, that final conversation with a parent before they passed away. Those moments mattered because they could not last forever. When monks meditate on impermanence, they're training their hearts to meet change with acceptance rather than resistance. They're reminding themselves, "This too will pass." And that phrase, "this too will pass," becomes a source of freedom. Because if joy doesn't last forever, neither does pain. If success fades, so does failure. Let me ask you this. What in your life right now are you holding on to so tightly that it causes you pain? Is it an expectation? A memory? A person? What would happen if you softened your grip just a little and let impermanence teach you its quiet lesson? When we begin to see life through the eyes of impermanence, letting go becomes less frightening. It no longer feels like a loss, but like a natural rhythm. Just as the ocean waves rise and fall, life offers us moments to embrace and moments to release. Both are necessary. Both are sacred. The monks don't master letting go overnight. It takes years of practice, of reminding themselves daily. Everything changes. But with time, their hearts grow lighter. They smile more easily, even in the face of loss. Because they know the truth that trying to hold the unholdable is like trying to grasp water in your hand. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. So maybe, instead of resisting change, we can walk alongside it. Instead of fearing impermanence, we can let it deepen our gratitude for what we have right now. The laugh of a friend, the warmth of sunlight on our skin, the sound of rain against the window. None of it is permanent, and that's what makes it all so profoundly beautiful. 3. Practicing mindfulness. There's a simple yet powerful practice that Buddhist monks use every single day to master the art of letting go. It's called mindfulness. Now, mindfulness isn't just about sitting cross-legged on a cushion or breathing slowly in silence. At its core, mindfulness means being fully present with whatever is here, without clinging and without pushing away. Think about how we usually deal with our emotions. When anger comes, we often try to suppress it, pretending it isn't there. When sadness arises, we might drown ourselves in distractions. Television, food, or endless scrolling. And when worry shows up, we fight it, thinking if we wrestle with it long enough, it will disappear. But has that ever really worked? Monks approach emotions differently. They don't suppress, they don't run, and they don't fight. Instead, they watch, they breathe, they acknowledge. One monk once told me, emotions are like clouds drifting through the sky. If you just let them be, they always pass. But if you try to hold on to them or push them away, you only create storms inside yourself. Imagine you're sitting by a quiet river. A leaf falls on the surface, floats by, and disappears downstream. That's how monks see anger, sadness, or fear, just passing leaves on the river of the mind. Nothing to chase, nothing to resist. And this is where the art of letting go becomes real. Because letting go doesn't mean we cut off our feelings. It doesn't mean we deny our pain. It means we allow everything to appear, stay for as long as it needs to, and then fade naturally. Let me give you a real example. A friend of mine lost his job unexpectedly. At first, he was overwhelmed. Fear, shame, uncertainty. He said it felt like the ground under his feet had collapsed. But instead of numbing himself or pretending to be fine, he tried a very monk-like practice. He sat with his feelings each morning for 10 minutes. He named them silently. Fear is here. Sadness is here. Anger is here. He didn't judge. He didn't analyze. Just acknowledged. Within a week, something shifted. The emotions still came, but they didn't control him anymore. He told me, "It's like the storm is still above me, but I've found shelter. I can watch the rain without drowning in it." That's the gift of mindfulness. It doesn't erase the storms of life, but it gives us a safe space within them. The Buddha himself taught, just as rain does not cling to a well-thatched roof, so anger and sorrow do not cling to a mind that is aware. Isn't that beautiful? Awareness becomes our shelter. Now, you might be wondering, how do monks train this awareness so deeply? Their daily life is structured around it. Walking from their cell to the dining hall, they walk slowly, noticing each step. Washing a bowl, they notice the water, the touch, the sound. Eating, they chew in silence, savoring every bite. In each moment, they are fully there. And because they are there, they are free. But here's the question for you. Where is your mind when you wash dishes at home? Or when you eat your breakfast? Most of us are either replaying yesterday's regrets or worrying about tomorrow's problems. We rarely taste the food, feel the water, or hear the simple sounds around us. Our body is present, but our mind is everywhere else, and that's why stress clings so tightly. The monks remind us, letting go begins by returning to this moment, because in this moment, the burden of yesterday no longer exists, and the fear of tomorrow hasn't arrived. All that's left is life, as it is, right now. So, if you want to taste what monks taste, the freedom of letting go, you don't need to join a monastery. You can begin with something as simple as pausing when you feel strong emotions. Take a slow breath. Name what is there: anger, sadness, fear. Then, like clouds in the sky, let them float on. Over time, you'll notice something profound. The emotions don't own you anymore. The mind becomes lighter, the heart becomes gentler, and you realize you can hold pain without being crushed by it. You can feel joy without clinging desperately to it. You can love without fear of losing. That's the power of mindfulness. It's not just a practice, it's a way of being. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more mindful you are, the easier it becomes to let go. And the more you let go, the more deeply mindful you become. One nourishes the other, like two wings of the same bird. So I want to leave you with this reflection. Next time an emotion rises within you, instead of asking, "How do I get rid of this?" try asking, "Can I simply watch this? Can I allow it to pass like a cloud in the sky?" That small shift, practiced again and again, is how monks master the art of letting go. And it's how you and I can begin to taste that same freedom right here in our daily lives. 4. Replacing attachment with compassion. Let me share with you something very simple, yet profoundly life-changing. Imagine this. You've been carrying a heavy stone in your hands for years. It hurts, it weighs you down, but you keep holding it because, somehow, you believe it belongs to you. That stone could be an old resentment, a betrayal, or even a deep wound from someone you once loved. This is where Buddhist monks show us another way. Instead of holding on to that stone of pain, they place it down, and in its place, they nurture compassion. But what does that really mean? When someone hurts us, our first instinct is often to protect ourselves with anger, or to keep that memory alive as a warning. We tell ourselves, if I let it go, it means what they did was okay. But that's not the truth. Monks remind us that letting go is not about erasing what happened. It's about choosing not to chain ourselves to the pain any longer. The Buddha once said, "Holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else, yet you are the one who gets burned." Think about that for a moment. Each time we replay the hurt in our mind, we're the ones who bleed, not them, us. So, how do monks transform that burning coal into something that doesn't destroy them? They replace it with compassion. Compassion doesn't mean weakness. It doesn't mean excusing harmful actions. It means seeing that the person who caused the pain is also trapped in their own suffering, often acting from ignorance, fear, or their own wounds. I once heard a monk share a story about a man who insulted him every time they crossed paths. Instead of reacting, the monk silently wished that man peace and healing. Over time, the insults lost their power. Why? Because anger cannot take root in soil that has been watered with compassion. And isn't that what we all want? A heart that feels light? A mind that isn't haunted by grudges? Now, let me ask you this. What if the very pain you carry could become the seed of compassion? What if, instead of letting your heart harden, you allowed it to soften? How different would your life feel? Here's the beauty of this practice. When monks let go of attachment to pain, they are not left with emptiness. They are left with space. Space to love, space to forgive, space to see life more clearly. Compassion fills that space like fresh air entering a room that has been locked for too long. Picture it like this. If you close your fist tightly around a thorn, it cuts you. But if you open your hand, release it, suddenly there is room for a flower to be placed there instead. Compassion is that flower. For many of us, The fear of letting go is the fear of losing a part of ourselves. We think, if I stop being angry, who will I be? But the truth is, anger is not your identity. Hurt is not your essence, your true nature. What monks call the awakened heart is vast, open, and boundless. This is why Buddhist monks practice replacing attachment with compassion again and again. Because life will always bring challenges, betrayals, disappointments. But each of those moments is also an invitation. An invitation to ask, will I let this experience close my heart or open it? And here's something even deeper. Compassion doesn't just heal you, it ripples outward. When you meet others with gentleness instead of bitterness, you become a source of healing in their lives too. Sometimes, without saying a word, your presence becomes a safe place for someone else to breathe again. Letting go, then, is not about losing. It's about gaining. Gaining freedom, gaining peace, gaining the ability to love without fear. It's about no longer being a prisoner of your own story. So, the next time you feel that familiar sting of anger or the heavy pull of resentment, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what would compassion look like in this moment? Maybe it's as simple as silently wishing the other person healing. Maybe it's choosing not to repeat the hurtful story again. Or maybe it's turning inward and offering kindness to yourself first. Because compassion begins here, within. And when you give it to yourself, it naturally flows to others. The monks have mastered this art not because they never feel pain, but because they have learned what to do with it. They transform it. Like an alchemist turning lead into gold, they turn suffering into compassion. And if they can do it, so can we. Remember, letting go is not the end. It's the beginning. The moment you release what weighs you down, you open your arms to something far greater: love, peace, and the freedom to live fully. 5. Applying letting go in daily life. You know, one of the most powerful things about Buddhist wisdom is that it's not meant to stay inside the monastery walls. It's not just for monks who sit under Bodhi trees or spend hours in meditation halls. It's for people like you and me, people who wake up in the middle of the night replaying old memories, who carry regrets about the past, or who feel the heavy weight of expectations we've placed on ourselves. That's where the art of letting go becomes real, because it's one thing to admire monks for their serenity, but the question is, how do we bring even a small piece of that serenity into our everyday lives? Here's a practice that's surprisingly simple, yet deeply transformative. Take a piece of paper. Write down one thing you know you've been clinging to. It could be a broken relationship that still lingers in your heart. Maybe it's a failed plan or a dream that didn't unfold the way you hoped. Or maybe it's something subtle, like the need to control everything around you. Whatever it is, put it into words, and then gently say to yourself, I am ready to release this. I don't need to carry it anymore. At first, it might feel awkward. Your mind might resist. Part of you may even whisper, but if I let go, I'll lose a piece of who I am. That's the inner struggle we all face, the belief that our pain, our stories, our disappointments somehow define us. But here's the truth. Monks don't let go because they've stopped caring. They let go because they've realized that clinging is what keeps the wound open. And when you stop picking at the wound, it finally has the chance to heal. Think about it like this. Imagine holding a glass of water. It's light at first, but if you hold it for an hour, your arm starts to ache. Hold it for a day, and it becomes unbearable. The weight hasn't changed, but your capacity to bear it has. That's what clinging does. The longer we hold on, the heavier it feels. And the act of setting it down, that's liberation. Now, you don't have to let go of everything at once. No monk wakes up one day, and suddenly drops all attachments in a single breath. They start small. They practice. And you can too. Maybe today, it's writing down that one memory and saying, I release this. Maybe tomorrow, it's taking a deep breath when your plans don't unfold the way you wanted, and reminding yourself, it's okay. Life doesn't always follow my script. And slowly, something begins to shift. You realize that letting go is not a loss, it's a gain. By loosening your grip on the past, you open your hands to receive the present. By softening your need to control, you discover space for compassion, for patience, for peace. The Buddha once taught that holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. Letting go, then, isn't about pretending the coal never existed. It's about finally releasing it, so you don't keep burning yourself. So, let me ask you, what coal are you still holding? What weight are you carrying in your heart that's ready to be set down? Take a quiet moment today. Write it. Speak it. And with gentleness, not force, but gentleness, tell yourself, I'm willing to let this be lighter. This is how monks live. They don't float above the world. They walk in it just like us, but with lighter steps. And if they can embody that freedom, even surrounded by the same human emotions and struggles we face, then we can take our own first steps too, one release at a time, one breath at a time. Because the art of letting go is not about abandoning life. It's about finally learning how to live it fully without being chained by what no longer serves us. Closing section for how Buddhist monks master the art of letting go. Sometimes, when people first hear the words letting go, they imagine giving up, walking away from life, from relationships, from responsibility. But that's not what Buddhist monks are teaching us. Letting go isn't about turning your back on life. It's about learning how to live it more fully, without the chains that hold you down. Think about it. Every time you release something that weighs heavy on your heart, a resentment you've carried for years, a regret that whispers to you at night, or even the constant pressure to control everything, you don't lose anything. In fact, you gain space. You create room for peace, for clarity, and for love to flow in. I often think of it like unclenching a fist. If your hand is closed tightly around a rock, you can't hold anything else. But the moment you release it, your hand is open again. Open to the breeze, to touch, to connection. Life works the same way. Every act of letting go is really an act of opening. And here's the paradox. The more you release, the lighter you become. You don't carry the burden of what should have been or what must be. You simply walk in the present moment, free to notice the beauty that's already around you, the smile of a loved one, the stillness of the morning, the breath you didn't even realize you were holding. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care in a different way, a freer way. Instead of clinging, you trust. Instead of controlling, you allow. And that's when you discover that life takes care of itself in ways you could never force. Monks practice this daily, not just on the meditation cushion, but in every small moment. Receiving food with gratitude, releasing expectations, bowing to the impermanence of all things. And while most of us don't live in a monastery, their lesson is still for us. Every time you let go of one small thing, you take one step closer to inner peace. So I'd like to leave you with this gentle reflection. What is one thing you can release today? Maybe it's a memory that keeps replaying. Maybe it's anger towards someone who hurt you. Or maybe it's the need for life to look exactly the way you planned. Imagine, just for a moment, how light you would feel without that burden. And if you've ever seen a family member, a friend, or even yourself caught in that endless struggle holding on so tightly that it only causes pain, you know how freeing it would be if they could just let go. If someone comes to mind as you're listening now, perhaps this video could be the seed you share with them. Because the truth is, letting go isn't the end of the journey. It's the beginning of freedom. It's how we finally stop surviving life and start truly living it. Now, I'd love to hear from you. In the comments below, share with me, what is one thing you are trying to let go of right now? Your words might inspire someone else who needs courage to release their own burden. And if this message touched your heart today, consider subscribing so we can continue walking this path together. This channel is a small space for wisdom and healing, and your presence keeps it alive. Thank you for being here, for listening with openness, and for daring to walk lighter. And as a little gift of gratitude, you'll find a free resource in the description, something to guide you deeper into this practice of mindful living. Until we meet again, may you have the courage to release what no longer serves you and the wisdom to embrace the freedom that follows.